Shabbat Shalom and welcome to another video Devar Torah. I want to share with you a special feature that appears in Parshat Vaetchanan. Just like we have a mitzvah to remember the Exodus from Egypt, Moshe is going to present a similar mitzvah with respect to Har Sinai. So it says, Rak hishamer lecha ushmar nafshecha ma'od, pen tishkach et hadarim asher ra'u einecha. But you have to take care scrupulously so you don't forget the things which you saw with your own eyes, so they don't fade from your mind as long as you live. Make them known to your children and to your children's children. And then Moshe is going to intensify that. And he says, what day is it? The day that you stood at the foot of Sinai, which is here referred to as Chorev, in order that you may learn to revere me as long as you live on earth, and so you may teach them to my children. This mitzvah of remembering Sinai might best be placed in the synagogue, that we have this experience of the reading the Torah every Shabbat, which is meant to do that. And when we read the Ten Commandments, as we will this week, we read them in a special fashion that is meant to mimic the way in which it took place at the foot of Sinai, the way in which the verses are divided up, the way in which the cantillations are read, are all meant to be very much like that moment of Har Sinai. But what's interesting is that this creates an interesting tension in the Torah. The tension is that this wondrous event, it came with no pictures, so to speak. Moshe is going to say, "Unishmartem ma'od lenafshotechem ki lo ri'item kol tmuna." You didn't see any pictures that day. Biyom diber Hashem elechem bechorev mitoch ha'esh. The day that Hashem spoke to you out of the fire. And then a few verses later, Hashem's going to be very clear. It says, don't make suns, don't make moons, right? That's a practice which belongs to the idol worshippers. What's interesting, though, is that the Jews, for centuries, when they construct their synagogues, have taken a slightly different approach. Perhaps they found a little wiggle room in between. This is a synagogue that I was privileged to visit a month ago in a little town in Piedmont, Italy, called Casale Monferrato. You can see it's a gorgeous Baroque synagogue that was built in the 16th century. And as is very common in Italian synagogues, they take the words, Ze Shar Hashamayim. This is the gate of heaven. This verse is taken from Jacob's dream of the ladder. But clearly, this synagogue wants to show you a depiction of the sky as the gate of heaven, where Hashem's revelation to a certain extent comes down. There are no stars, there's no moon, there's no sun, but clearly there are clouds, clearly it is the sky, clearly it's meant to give you this impression that in this space, the heaven comes to share a causeway with earth, very much like that moment of Sinai. This synagogue is another synagogue in Italy. This one many people may have been to. This is Tempio Majora in Rome. And here you can see the stars are, in a sense, very clearly imaged on the sides. And you can see that the idea of the heavens opening up is very much part of the entire roof structure. You are meant to, in this space, feel like Hashem is shining in. The Har Sinai is, in a sense, recreated through the art. This is a Spanish synagogue in Prague, and you can see that this has clearly also driven by this idea of stars, and the imagery of stars is meant to very clearly populate the roof structure here. Perhaps in a little bit more traditional fashion, and again, owing to that sense of the stars, and also taking in some of the other elements of revelation. This is a reconstruction of a synagogue in, I won't even try to pronounce the town, in Poland. This has been reconstructed out of the Polish Museum of Jewish History. And here the entire zodiac is summoned. This idea of the stars, of sort of this heavens opening up, is depicted in a slightly different way. This is apparently very common in Polish synagogues. This is another one. This image is from Yad Vashem. This is from the Chodro synagogue in Ukraine. This is what they looked like on the outside. These were wooden synagogues, and they were very plain on the outside and very ornate on the inside. But again, they have the zodiac, as you can see in these circles above, that tried to capture the sense of the stars. This issue is very controversial. If you read certain sections of Jewish law, it says you shouldn't make any image of the stars, not of the sun, not of the moon, not of anything else. So how did these synagogues come to depict so many things which look like stars, look like heavens, look like skies, look like zodiacs? And the answer is that Judaism said you can't do that when it's in a three-dimensional space. But some of the great rabbis of Ashkenaz, and then it was repeated by Rabbi Yaakov Balaturim, who wrote maybe one of the first codes of Jewish law in Spain since Maimonides. And they said that as long as it's a flat image, it is kosher. This represents, though, as you can see, a tension between that which is written on paper. The verses themselves are very clear. The verses don't want us to be making graven images, don't want us to represent the stars at all. At the same time, there's this tremendous passion to feel this connection to God, to feel that this space is connected to the heavens, is connected to that which is beyond, that the heavens literally open up, just like they did at Sinai, that there is this reverberation of God's presence, which in some sense is connected to the idea of looking upward and looking to heaven. At the same time, it's highly problematic because Judaism wants you to know that God has no form and God is in all places, and it is very abstract. This has been the everlasting challenge of the Jewish people. Hopefully, we succeed in giving our children a sense of the fact that we all deep down felt a moment of revelation. We experienced that. And that is what we try to return to, the sense that there was a moment where Hashem spoke to us in 10 utterances which represent and encapsulate a glorious relationship that has lasted for 3,500 years, and that we try to hold on to and recreate and feel as viscerally as possible. And sometimes that means that you're in a synagogue that looks like it has the heavens painted on the ceiling.